You can't possibly be serious, Ted Lasso. You coaching a football team is like if the Queen was an Indian. Well, I'm not much for fairy tales, but around the time my son was 3, we started watching Frozen, and Elsa said, "Let's build a snowman." And a lot of the guys in the Me Too movement turned out to be from Jewish descent, but I didn't necessarily think that made a pattern. So let's Me Three this team. Oh, you're right, Ted Lasso. I'm sorry. I'm actually mean because I was molested, and I'm going to tell you about it, despite us meeting for the first time. Well, now is as good as time of any to address your trauma that you're immediately telling me. By the way, my marriage is over. This is the first time we've both met each other. You don't have to write a character when they just reveal all of their formative traumas and change them instantly after 1 second.
I'll tell you what. If spreading positivity and optimism were a deadly disease with no cure, then just call me French-Canadian flight attendant Gaetan Dugas, because I'm patient 0. It's me, Ted Lasso. Guys, I just spent probably the last 6 of my waking hours watching a good chunk of this show, and I feel like I was left in Jolly West's waiting room, except instead of radiation, I've just my cells have been bombarded with positivity at a molecular level. I feel it's coursing in my veins. I don't have much longer. This will be my last episode before I succumb to good feelings cancer.
I watched I think 1 3/4 of a season. I went through a Dark Souls 3 playthrough for as long as I could go while watching Ted Lasso from the first episode. And it's TV has fallen. What else can I say? This is just it is a repudiation of TV as an art form. TV as a way of life. It's anti-TV. It just, the characters are nothing. There's just nothing. It just, there's no point to any of it. There are no characters. There's just moments. They're just revelations of trauma. And no one's actually a bad person because all they needed was for this hayseed to wander into their lives and be nice to them. And then suddenly, all just 30, 40, 50, 60 years of bad behavior wiped out instantly. They're oh, I haven't thought of it that way. I'm nice now.
This is, I feel like we've talked a lot about on this show about entertainment that's made nowadays that's designed to make you a better person. And the whole time I thought I was half joking about that until I watched Ted Lasso, because every plot beat, every joke is just a life lesson to make you, the viewer, a happier, more empathetic person. And I think it's pure evil. I think there is something deeply sinister about this show. Our friend Alex from Detroit messaged me when I said we might be doing a Ted Lasso episode, and his thoughts on the show are exactly like mine. This is about mid 21st century, rebranded American imperialism, where we're going to conquer the world with niceness. Because I just saw today, Jason Sudeikis said that originally the Ted Lasso character was, quote, more belligerent until the election of Donald Trump. And he was I just don't want to contribute to that anymore. So the whole show is haunted by the specter of America as it actually exists. And this idea, okay, in the title sequence to Ted Lasso, in the credit sequence where it's yeah, I might be all that you get. It's Ted Lasso.
Yeah, the 2 types of songs in the show, it's either I would say if Ben Folds was injected with twice as many chromosomes, a rock song like that, or the worst post-rock song you've ever heard. Just the shittiest fucking post-rock song you've ever heard in your life that
it's
will
by
play
one of
during
the
a
Mumford
positivity montage. Oh, that explains it.
Yeah, it's by one of the Mumfords.
Okay.
Okay, so it's if you haven't seen the show, and by the way, this is Chapo for Monday, May 15th. We're talking the Apple TV series Ted Lasso and what it means for my soul and the world. Okay, so in the credit sequence, he sits down at the dog track at the old football pitch, and he's sitting in the seats in the stands. And as he sits down, the blue graffitied seats turn to red, and it all sort of it cleans up the stadium. The seats have Sharon's slag written on it, and like the Ted Lasso niceness just sort of red washes it. This show is about American imperialism because like a better opening sequence would be a stand full of like pinched face, cruel, sadistic Britons. And then Ted Lasso sits down and they're all just like changed into like soy American marshmallow men.
Yeah, their shaved heads. The hair just pops back like a fast-growing chia pet.
The redness in their face just sort of melts away. They have a healthy pallor again. They're eating vegetables.
Their mouths just open into soy faces.
Ted Lasso is like Genghis Khan through the Ned Flanders filter. No, he everywhere he goes, he will decapitate your leaders. He will reroute a river so it runs over your birthplace, and he will just wash over you with his nauseous positivity.
I feel like I had the exact like from the basically the first scene with Ted Lasso, I was like, oh, he's Ned Flanders. But like it's even worse than that because he's not religious at all, or at least not outward, which is like a true psychopath. Like to be like Ned Flanders without any kind of spiritual element to it is terrifying. And watching the first season of the show, I was struck by the idea that like there's the germ of an idea for what could be a very funny show that's basically the same concept, except Ted Lasso is a psychopath. Like, and that he doesn't actually make anyone's life better. Like, it's just he fails at. It's just like
if he's using all of that positivity to ingratiate himself into people's lives, manipulate them, torment them psychically, and then break them. Now we got a show.
Or one in which his like deluded American optimism just crashes into like the cliffs of Dover and melts away at the just generally rotten personalities of the British. But
yeah,
no,
like they're so miserable that they defeat his positivity and in fact turn him into a he shaves his head. he gets super red faced, or just shoving chips in his fucking gob.
Oh my god! We could add a little like historical synthesis to it. He's an American stripped of spirituality, but going back to England, similar to a Mongol returning to the steppe, he remembers, and he recreates Calvinism, basically.
Oh man! So yeah, we've all watched. I made it through about like a season and a half or so of Ted Lasso, and Felix, I didn't know how much you watched. So when you brought up Elsa and Frozen, I was wondering if you had seen the scene where Ted Lasso has a panic attack to his boss and let it go from Frozen.
Yeah, I saw the realistic panic attack scene, which one of the better scenes of the show because there's no dialogue. There isn't anyone talking to Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso isn't, despite being a 43-year-old football coach from Nebraska, isn't saying things that like, I like just someone who's worked in New York media for 87 years would say. I know that's the worst part of the Ted Lasso character. So he's this fucking shit kicker from Nebraska, and he's like, well, I used to like listen to Brand New, but after Jesse Lacey did those things, there's a kick-ass riot girl punk act from Bushwick who I think are cool in a non-fetishistic way. What the fuck is this character?
Call me 1976 because not because the bicentennial, but because the lead singer has been on a problematic podcast, just like
He's just pointless.
The whole show is. I mean, like how should I describe the basic setup? I mean, here's the thing: like watching this for the first time after only absorbing it and its mind-numbing positivity like secondhand through Twitter. I always thought Ted Lasso was a soccer coach. But no, he's an American football coach that's hired by the top bird of FC Richmond to do the classic ripoff of the much better film Major League about a much better sport, baseball. But no, she's like the bitch owner of the team that wants the team to fail. So she hires this, what she thinks is an absolute goofus from the Midwest, who is like mainly famous for like a viral moment in the locker room where he's doing the Carlton dance. And brings him over to the UK to coach or manage, I should say, her footy club that she just got in the divorce from her like rotten ex-husband. So she wants to ruin the team that's like her ex-husband's like true joy in life.
Yeah, it's much more contrived than Major League Because Major League, it's like, okay, that makes a little sense. There would be like a tax thing or something. But this is just like, oh, my husband who doesn't give a shit about me and like divorced me to marry an 11-year-old. I'm going to ruin his day by making his football team shitty.
Oh, yeah,
he doesn't give a shit. He just, every scene we see him in, he's like, oh, I purchased a new slave. He doesn't care.
Well, yeah. So it's like, Jason Sudeikis shows up in England, like, the ship that brought Dracula over from Romania, and like every piece of writing on the show is these like folksy pop culture reference based aphorisms and sort of platitudes that he spouts. It's just like he's a walking like kitten like the poster with a kitten hanging that says like, hang in there, buddy. He's just a human version of that. And for a show that's supposed to be funny, he's like the anti Kenny Powers, And I know Jason Sudeikis was on Eastbound and Down, and he was very funny on that. But I feel like this show is like an apology for how evil the third season of Eastbound and Down was. And yeah, like, so he's just, and the other thing that annoyed me about this show is that if it's set in the world of like premier footballers who are notoriously like evil, bad behaved people, even for professional athletes, and like there's very few slags. There's no cocaine. There's just no bad behavior of any kind. And for a comedy set in the world of professional sports, it's really demoralizing for me, at least.
The worst personal attribute we see in a footy star is Jamie. Jamie's like the hot shot.
Yeah, he's the young striker.
Yeah, and he's sort of like an asshole. And you're like, oh, okay, are they going to do something interesting with this? And within like they can't even withstand the tension of there being a mean character for like a millisecond. Within like faster than the speed of light, like it causes a quantum rip. They cannot. They write it in so quick. They're like, actually, my dad abused me. Actually, because my dad abused me. I tell you, Ted Lasso.
So yeah,
and of course, like it just. There's nothing ever gets time to sit or cook. Any tension is immediately relieved. It cannot be allowed to be there at all. There's no disparity. There's nothing.
So Ted comes over for this like phony job that he's set up to fail in, and I don't know. Like when I first saw the first episode, I was like, "There's no way he's going to melt the hearts of the Richmond FC faithful. There's just no way he's going to get the team on his side." But it's pretty surprising that he does.
Yeah, no, who could see that coming?
I don't know, man. Like, it's just this is a show. I guess that we've made fun of in passing only because like I said, being familiar with it through secondhand exposure. But man, this really is like talk about a show for our moment. Talk about a show that's like I don't know in the zeitgeist of the present moment. Man, oh man, it is Ted Lasso, and it is super depressing.
Yeah, and I say this show is anti-TV because I know TV's bad, right? That's the point of it. The greatest TV show ever, arguably Deadwood, was so good it could not be allowed to survive on TV. But I think Ted Lasso is anti-TV because the difference between TV and movies, right, is that with a movie, you want it to be resolved. You want it to end. Even in a movie you love, you ultimately want it to come to a close and get even if all the loose ends aren't tied up, some sense of closure. TV, one of the things that supposedly makes it bad is that you kind of want it to keep going forever. And so these problems or these open threads are kept open forever. Like Stabler and Benson are now 130 years old and they're still doing a will they, won't they? They still look amazing. They still look amazing, by the way. I would be their futon. If they ask me. That's one of the reasons TV's bad. But this doesn't have that because there is no tension. There is no problem. Even the problem of like, oh, the team's sort of bad at soccer, because Ted Lasso's a football coach. That's not even really a problem because like they'll lose games and be like, oh, we don't care because we all like learn to be positive with our teammates.
There was one point in the first season where like his assistant coach, Beard, like sort of actually gets angry at him, because like for the whole first season when he's talking to the media and like in the locker room and stuff, he's like, look, listen, I don't judge success by wins and losses. There are things more important than winning. And it's like, not at the professional level. They're not in high school anymore. The role of a coach is not to like mold young men into
these are millionaires.
these are multi-million-dollar professional athletes. Like they don't like, so like the idea that they're going to get cheered up by some fucking hayseed from Kansas telling them about like the peanut butter he likes eating out of the jar with his finger. Ugh.
But they do. They do.
Yep. They do. They love it. They can't get enough.
Yeah.
None of them ask, why the hell does he sound like that if he's from Kansas?
Yeah. He has like a pseudo-Southern accent.
Yeah, it's like he with the smile and the fake charm and the obviously fake accent. It would be so hilarious if it was a slow reveal that, oh yeah, he's actually a con artist who like stole someone's identity, and
yeah.
That would be a show.
And like, I mean, like there's and the fact that the show is set in the UK and like all the actors are British except for like Sudeikis and his assistant coach is like, just it really reminds me like there's so much good British television and comedy series wrung out of like a completely unself-aware lunatic who is like a social atrocity to everyone around him, and that could have been so fruitful with this concept of like you said, Matt, imagining him as a con man who just like. like worked his way into athletics and is just like stealing money and then like getting into people's getting past their defenses by his like saying like what he's what tell him what the first rule of my fight club is. There's no fight club. Like it's just all his like all the aphorisms and just his pop culture references, and like he like Felix, you're totally right. He constantly talks about how he's not on the internet or whatever, but like he talks like someone who's only on the internet.
Yeah, he talks like he, in the horrible game Cyberpunk, you could get little biomods and operating systems into your brain. He seems like he selected one that was like, Gawker writer. He got that OS installed, and he knows all fucking everything. He knows what happened in every fucking BuzzFeed holiday party and everything. But going back to like how this could be interesting, like the clash between him and the innate sourness of British people, the social faux pas. That there's no potential for that because every character, including Ted, is so fucking pliant. This is a trend I've noticed in like horrible TV. I noticed it in Council of Dads. I noticed it in This Is Us. This is a hallmark of like this type of like
Council of Dads.
Yeah. Well, it's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. It's all the same type of thing. All the same type of like just saccharine bullshit where it all has the same message to the viewer, which is like, just fuck it, stop complaining, you piece of shit. Be positive. The one commonality between all these things, the most important thing is every character is so fucking pliant. No one resists. If they're a piece of shit angry Brit whose dad beat them, 1 second of Ted telling them, well, feelings are like a fire hydrant. Most of the time there's a screw in them for a reason, but on a hot summer day you gotta fucking let it go. Everyone just immediately complies. Everyone is ready to tell someone they've known for 2 seconds the worst thing that ever fucking happened to them. Everyone just rolls over on their belly. Everyone just exposes their neuter scars to each other. It's like a vision for the world by just the most evil TV creators ever.
And yeah, I feel like that to me is what it is like very sinister about this show, is that the message is that like America is like, we're going to stay in charge of the world. And in fact, we're going to reconquer huge swaths of it, but we're going to reconquer it by making everyone compliant and nice and like, and therapy and like sort of therapy brained. That, that we are now the masters of the world's trauma. And if we share that trauma that we've caused, then we can like reconquer the world.
Right. You should be like the players and just tell everyone just dump it. Just dump it all. One time, actually, sometimes I can be standoffish because one time at summer camp, they started a rumor that I jacked off in a sleeping bag, and they called me marinating Melvin. And now, I'm telling you that for the first time, and now I feel better, and you feel better. You should be like that, and you should also be like Ted. You should also be like Ted. Someone can just can just come over and just bash you on the side of the head with a blackjack, and just like butterfly your liver. Not even take it out of your body, just ruin it for you. They'll turn your eyes inside out, make your body look as close as it can to like Daffy Duck in the when they put the screwball flag on the tail, all that shit. Just go crazy with your body, and you'll go, well, I guess I got a makeover for free. Just accept anything that will ever happen to you. Except with a smile. Skip to your next destination.
I mean, like, for a show that is all about being in touch with your emotions, the one emotion that no one seems to really want to touch is anger, which is what I was wondering a lot watching the show. Is like, when is it, like, I think Ted gets angry one time, kind of, at Jamie he does the Allen Iverson practice thing to him. I don't know if
that's contrived. That's contrived. Like, he will fake get mad with Jamie to like sort of replicate a father figure, or other times to like draw the team's ire away from Jamie, so they'll be mad at him. The only time he kind of gets mad is when his wife's like lawyer emails him and is like, "Good news, Ted. Your wife is never going to see you again." and
he takes it out on Nate. The kit keeper.
Nate is the kit keeper on the team on Milford, and
he's their compliant colonial subject who they make coach.
yes. He's a compliant colonial subject who Ted solicits his advice for running the team, basically, for what plays they should make, and is always super nice to Nate. He's the only guy who's ever been nice to Nate. But Nate has the misfortune of knocking on his door for some play suggestions after Ted's wife's lawyer emailed him at 2 a.m., going, hey, Ted, by the way, your wife said that she's never been sexually attracted to you. That type of stuff. And he's like, go away, Nate! And it's so unbelievable. It's so not believable. It's so false seeming that you wonder, how did Olivia Wilde ever try to kill Ted Lasso? He doesn't have a malicious bone in his body. He must be really mean to try to murder Ted Lasso in his own home.
I mean, that is the thing about Ted Lasso. I mean, I'll tell you what, fellas. I'm about to get me some Oakley shades and start recording front-facing videos sharing my right-wing political beliefs. Why? Because my wife left me.
Yeah, Harry Styles is challenging gender norms, but he ain't challenging the norm of my relationship with Olivia Wilde, who tried to kill me with her car.
I mean, do you read like the rather loud advertisement for positive masculinity in this show, embodied by Jason Sudeikis? And in the article I just read about how he made the character less belligerent because he didn't want to contribute to like the negativity in the world caused by Trump. He said, "I want to write the change that I believe in the world." Do we see this as all like a canny PR effort by him to like in his current divorce proceedings with Olivia Wilde? I mean, I know the show started before.
He's definitely
I read into it.
He's definitely in a war of positions with Olivia Wilde. That's for sure. I mean, there is the story about him serving her with papers at like a Comic-Con type deal on stage.
Ted Lasso, you've made your greatest play yet.
He's going chaos mode, like in the big match against Man City.
Yeah, the story about him lying down in front of her car to stop her from going into fucking Carrie Styles.
Someone, by the way, is an E1 listener. Jason Sudeikis, real life, doing the E1 technique, the Omega Male. What is more empowering than making your wife almost kill you? Awesome. I don't know. I don't know if he's thinking that far ahead. I think, like all actors are so like just fucking, nothing, that I think he legitimately thinks that. I think he's like, He probably saw like a Now This video that was like, this woman voted for the first time in her life and then she died and she had to see Trump become president. He's like, I can fix this. I'm going to do a show about therapy. I think he really thinks that. I don't think he's thinking tactically.
He saw this video. Boy masturbates in sleeping bag at summer camp is tagged with interesting nickname. 20 years later, he killed himself and 12 others.
Boy 11 cuckolded by Harry Styles. His teacher was going to sleep with him. Then Harry Styles came in wearing jeans that had not been seen since the 1987 Cedar Rapids Women's Book Club. Harry Styles wearing the biggest jeans ever with butterflies and flowers on them, destroying gender norms, then getting knocked down by gender norms. Harry Styles getting choked unconscious by gender norms, walking in a 2007 billowy maternity top, billowing. Everyone sees his shitty tattoos. He walks in, walks up to Olivia Wilde and says, "My favorite thing of acting in a movie is that I'll realize I'll be in the DVD." She goes, "I want you. I don't want Ted Lasso anymore."
Well, we've talked a lot about Ted Lasso, but he's not the only character on this show. There's the top bird, his boss, Rebecca. Rebecca, she's I don't know, how would you describe Rebecca on this show? She's like the other one of the main characters. Is like, she's the sort of set up as the bitch ex-wife who wants the team to fail, but slowly, she is won over by Ted Lasso's is basically succumbs without consent to his relentless positivity.
I mean, I wouldn't even say slowly. The idea of like, okay, she wants the team to fail. He wants the team to be a team, really be a team of friends and succeed in their own way. Could be like an interesting tension, maybe, if I'm going to really force myself to be objective here. But they can't keep it up for even like 5 episodes. After like 5 episodes, she tells Ted the entire thing. She's like, "Oh, Ted, actually, I've hired you to fail because I wanted to get back at my ex-husband, and I'm sorry, and I'm never going to fire you now, and I've completely given up on that plan." They do the same thing with her characterization. She's supposed to be like the brassy boss lady. They do this awful thing where she spends the day with her friend's daughter, who's like a 13-year-old, and they do this thing in every form of media now. Wherever they write a young person, they're like, "What do young people like? Profanity," but they like doing it in the most complicated way possible. There was in one of the newer Resident Evil games, they had a character like this, and her defining line is she says to one of the monsters, "Sit on a dildo, boss." It's like they write every young person like this now, where it's like they don't say any slurs. They just go, "You're a piss swallowing fuckatron." They talk like Chuck Wendig. And they do this other thing where whenever women are empowering each other, they can't just be like, "Yeah, good, show him." they go, "You're a boss bitch ass super monster cunt. You're a super big bitch monster." They talk like the comedians who come on Joe Rogan a lot, describing each other's sets. They do this awful scene there, but they immediately every character that has known her forever, like Roy Kent's love interest or the little kid's friend or mom, her friend, they're like, "Oh, she seems mean, but actually she's really nice and she has a great voice and she can sing." And they show that in like the 3rd episode. They like every bit of tension in the show, they immediately release.
Yeah, they're not comfortable with it. I mean, that's like, yes, this show is part of a totalizing vision of like HR departments taking over the world, and that is a story of all personal conflict, all prejudice, bias, character flaws just melting under the Sauron gaze of American positivity. And this show really is interesting to look at in the context of the rest of Apple Plus's output, because Apple Plus is definitely the most baffling of the streaming services, because it's a fucking phone that decided to make shows. It doesn't have quite the same intuitive, relationship between content and content creator that other ones do. And so you're like, well, okay, what does a phone want? What is a phone's vision of the world? And there is a kind of a recognizable through line in the Apple output. It's a lot of science fiction, for one thing, way more than other networks, which makes sense. The fucking iPhone created our idea of like what the future is supposed to look like in the 21st century. Some of it is dystopian, but a lot of it is just positive. Like they have that one, For All Mankind, which is alternative history if we didn't end the space race with the Soviets because they got to the moon first. And so there's a bunch more. So like there's cell phones in the 80s, that kind of thing. And so we get to have this fantasy retro futurism. There's another one called like A Better Tomorrow or Beautiful Tomorrow or something. That's just like, what if we had fully automated luxury space communism in the 50s? And like there's a bunch of people selling timeshares on the moon. And then there's another Shrink show with Harrison Ford called Shrinking, about
from the producers
not
of
just
Ted
therapy
Lasso.
talk, like literal therapists all talking to themselves and to each other. Like, and then you got Ted Lasso, like, and let's not forget the silo. And there's something wrong with that silo. I'm telling you guys now. I don't know what it is, but I don't have a good feeling about that silo. I'm not watching the show, but if anyone is, you can let me know when I'm vindicated and that there's something off with that silo. So like the phone is the Apple presentation is of this like this smiley, happy future where everybody resolves their interpersonal problems by confessing their traumas. And if they don't, they get to go in the silo. If you're not willing to do that, then get in the fucking silo.
Yeah, that's the dystopian twist revealed in the silo. Is the silo is where all the toxic people were sent to live somewhere around the mid 21st century.
The people who just couldn't get
under
the people who were not charmed by Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
The people who told him to fuck off.
It'll be like the new version of that Mongolian capital punishment that they used to do, where they would just put you in a box until you starve to death.
Let's talk about the other most annoying show. The other most annoying character on this show. I don't know if you guys will agree with me, but it's got to be the top slag Keeley, played by Juno Temple, who's like she's the wag of Jamie, the sort of hot shit asshole footballer. But then she starts like doing PR for the team, and she starts dating Roy, who's like the sort of veteran, the leader of the team.
I really hate this character because he looks like me if I was forced through a TV diet. If I went into the weird Prometheus spaceship that Apple TV is run from, and they're like, we got to get you on TV, but we're gonna make your face less weird. We're gonna narrow it a bit.
When that show came out, there were people convinced that he was a CGI character.
Roy,
the guy who plays Roy, that like his face doesn't look like it's human. It's like it's kind of flat, pixely, and I definitely get that when I first watched it. He's just smooth in a weird way. It's unnerving.
Yeah. Have you ever, Matt? You've seen a picture of Kill a Keemstar, yeah?
No. Let me take a look.
Well, like
the guy who ran over a dog on New Year's Day.
No, that was Christmas Eve.
Okay.
And you're making it sound like he did it on purpose. It was a horrible accident.
Oh, right. The guy with the beard.
Yeah, yes. Mr. Drama.
The guy who looks like a Sumerian ziggurat.
Yeah. He's the real Sargon of Akkad. Yes. And a co-star of the greatest video of all time. Everyone knows the one.
Oh, yes. I know that one.
I've always thought his beard has like a very digital quality to it.
Yes.
Like it's the same thing. Like it's very well kept up. It's incredibly symmetrical. I could never do that. He does a great job with it, but it's so symmetrical and smooth. It looks fake, and Roy Kent looks the same way.
Yeah, it's unnerving. So Keeley, I sampled later episodes, and I got even into the third season. And so I got to one episode where her old boyfriend and Roy both say they love her back to back at a funeral. And then in the third season, though, she's in a lesbian relationship and has her nudes leaked from a previous relationship, which led to that viral clip where all the lads in the locker room talk about how much they respect women.
Hey, listen, I'm with Jamie on this one. You know, whenever I have a relationship and I ask the girl to go through my phone, delete any photos, videos, whatever she wants.
Bro, for real?
Yeah, I'm being serious. One girl actually deleted Candy Crush. I was devastated. But I also understood.
Hey, hold up. Once someone sends you a photo, don't you own it?
Copyright law on private photography is quite murky.
It's not about the law. It's about doing what is right. Like in Les Miserables.
The locker room talk.
God,
It's changed since you and I grew up. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good now. Yeah. So like, this brings up the question of like one of the things that I was most perplexed about, like when I was in the secondhand exposure to this show, was like all of the stuff about eating pussy. And like here's the tweet that kicked off the Ted Lasso oral sex discourse. I think you're not ready to admit that what really bugs you about Ted Lasso is that men go down on women before satisfying their own needs. You hate that women tell men what they want sexually and get it. You feel threatened by confident women.
There's a bunch of box eating in this show. I missed that.
There was like a reference to oral sex early on where Keeley sort of like says down boy and like points down at Jamie, and then he sort of like, does the all right Karen from Goodfellas move on her.
Okay.
But I mean, I was hoping there'd be a scene where Ted Lasso was eating pussy with his big
I would like to
mustache.
see it. I'd like to see
that cookie duster. Yeah.
I think that's kind of like Goku going Super Saiyan 3. They've got to tease it out for a bunch of seasons. There's going to be a bunch of episodes where every time they cut back to Ted, he's getting ready to eat pussy. Because he's just the best at it.
He's amazing at it. And also, just everybody, if you don't eat pussy, guess what? You're going in the silo.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's a plot line in the first season, like I said, where Keeley is basically like a wag for two of the football stars, Jamie, who gets traded, and then Roy Kent, who like retires or whatever. But there's this whole like dialogue where like Ted Lasso and his boys, who become like the relationship advice council, start like counseling him on like how he shouldn't care about her past sexual history. That was a good lesson, I think. For wags and footballers alike, he's like, hey, you're an adult, you have a sexual history, she has a sexual history, get over it. And then he's like,
grow up. And then he's like, you're right, Ted Lasso.
I will. Yeah. So that see, like you said, Felix, that issue that which potentially could have been, I don't know, humor or insight mine from, resolved instantly. He's like, oh, thanks for that. I don't care anymore that I'm currently in love with the woman who had sex with a guy I hated like 12 hours ago.
God forbid any tension. Let's just get rid of that immediately. It just makes TV worse when there's tension or conflict.
Another element of the first season that I very much enjoyed was the fact that Ted bakes cookies for his boss Rebecca every single day. And it's a theme throughout the show. He's like, biscuits with the boss, and like he like just keeps showing up in her office every morning with homemade cookies, and like that's what one of the things that sort of melts her heart.
It's revealed as like like he shows up with these cookies, and then you find out, oh yeah, he's baking those. He's not buying them, and that's supposed to be like, oh, that Ted Lasso, and not just the biggest red fucking flag that's ever been flailed. Like, oh, this guy needs to be on a watch list.
Yeah, that is probably like a detail in every workplace shooter that's ever existed.
He baked coffees for the office every Monday, and one day he showed up,
and then one day he shows up without coffee.
Yeah, if you ever killed like 12 people and wrote a manifesto that's like, I'm sad I'm doing this because I'm not going to be able to see the Hangover 3 after I kill myself. You did that before.
Ted Lasso writing a letter to Gianna Michaels before coming into work. Let's see. What are some other characters around this show? There's Higgins, who's like the head of football operations, who's just sort of like the doormat for Rebecca. He's just another nice character. There's I like when they introduce the Mexican guy whose only characteristic is just going, I love life. I love football. Football is life. And like, that's it. He just runs around singing like, what's it? Danny Roja. And he just runs on the field going, Danny Roja. I love football. Again, really cool character. I enjoyed him a lot.
He kills a dog at one point.
He kills a dog by accident.
That's decent.
So
but then, of course, he gets over it very quickly.
Yeah. He doesn't do it on purpose, of course.
Yeah. It's like he's taking a penalty kick and like the team's mascot like chases a pigeon right in front of his ball and then gets brained to death. I mean, probably the funniest moment on the entire show, at least of what I've seen so far. That's the other thing is like people like this show was so well reviewed and so popular. And like, like, is this show a comedy? Because like there are, if it is, like precious few laugh lines for me. I don't know about you.
It is, but comedy means like a different thing now.
Yes,
it doesn't
exactly.
it doesn't mean you laugh at it. It's not like
You're like, oh,
it's
that's
not like,
good.
yeah, it's not like, well, no, it's not like 30 Rock where it's like, oh my god, there's just so many great jokes per minute or something like that, or
no, comedy is
even like a comedy in the way The Sopranos is, where it's like, there aren't so many laugh out loud moments, but you're like, wow, that's a really funny characterization, or what a funny moment, or just cosmically funny. It's more comedy now means like, oh, I'm not going to feel tense or bad while watching it.
Yeah,
comedy just means relaxing now,
and also nutritious.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching this, and through watching it, I am an exposure to its message and positivity. I am gaining that. I am becoming Ted Lasso, and then I get to carry that lasso with me into the world. I mean, like there was for a while, all shows, all content had to be political because there was a belief that we're going to, just by conveying the world and conveying what's wrong with it, and analyzing that, it's going to motivate people to change it. Well, that did not happen. But now, since we're not going to change anything about the structures of the world, we can change ourselves by exposure to content like Ted Lasso that will allow us to deal with the horrors of the world more constructively, because we'll know, what, everybody's hurting, and if you just share your hurt with others, they'll share theirs with you, and then everybody will be, if not in a better position materially, emotionally more centered.
I mean, that is a fascinating thing about this show, is like what you're saying is that like at some point, probably due to the election of Donald Trump, it's like, and the fact that this show is set in the UK is also, I said, so disturbing to me, because like, the British sense of humor is people at their worst. Yeah. And like traditionally to me, that's what I think is funny about the human condition. Like that to me is what comedic situations come from, is people at their absolute worst. But now it's like, like people at their worst, that's bad. So the humor is supposed to be something that makes you feel good. And I guess I'm disturbed by that. That's what I find sinister about this show, is because I think like without the sort of pressure valve release of being able to laugh at everything that's truly horrible or even recognize it, we will become sort of, I don't know, the opposite of what this show is intending. I think we'll become sort of emotional eunuchs or something.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other fun moments from this show? I made it about like a little bit into the second season, but apparently the show now, there's sort of a backlash against it. Like, do you have any idea why fans, has the show gotten too edgy in the third season, or what?
I haven't seen any of the third season. Are there any like big changes? Like, does Ted maybe like has a racial awakening or something? Is there something we don't know?
I don't.
I don't celebrate Christmas anymore. It's a Jewish holiday. You don't see no dang menorah in my office.
The episodes I know are getting longer. It started off as like a half-hour show, and now they're like 50 minutes. So that might be part of what people are sick of. I don't know. I mean, I watched the second to last. I watched this. I think the second to last episode that's been aired, which is like episode 8 of the third season, which is the one with has the leaked nudes. And the locker room convo, and it seemed very similar, but just I think I was already, after only watching a handful of episodes and watching this episode, which again is like 45 minutes long, just feeling like I was staring into the fucking Chernobyl reactor. I can't imagine, even for people who liked it, I got to imagine that at this point, having watched all of the previous episodes, the particles are starting to build up in your bone marrow and making you a little nauseous.
Matt, someone told me that one of the more recent episodes is 70 minutes long.
Yeah,
God.
Which, I don't even understand how that happens. If I was writing this show, I don't even know how I'd make the episodes last longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because again, there's just no fucking conflict. I think it's the same thing as, the classic problem of eternity or the problem of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you,
right.
Let's say you watch 40 episodes of this, even if you like it, it's so just flat. Like there's no real difference between any of the episodes. And if you're making it all the way to, season 3 or 4, where the episodes are 70 minutes long, you would have to be on a fucking cocktail of all cocktails to not have that get to you.
That's what I mean about like there is a very sadistic element to the show, which is just like how relentlessly it punishes you with its niceness. And like I watched the first season with Catherine, and I just kept like turning to her, like when Ted says something like so cloying and saccharine, I would just turn to her and go, I don't feel so good. My tummy hurts. I think I threw up. I'm gonna throw up. Ow. Do you guys have any other like standout moments or scenes that stick out in your mind from this show?
Well, there's the dart scene from the first season, which was one of the first big viral moments the show had. Where
right, okay, yeah. He has to show out for the his boss and like sort of one up her evil ex-husband with a game of darts.
Yeah, and he reveals through this monologue that, you didn't think Ted Lasso was good at darts. Well, Ted Lasso played with darts every day at the bar with his dad until he died, which you find out later or before that he killed himself. And then, of course, there's a scene where it's just him and a therapist talking about the death of his father, which, that's not what I tend to enjoy in a comedy series is, the mundane mental health maintenance that people have to go through to just function. I'd rather watch them kind of bump against one another instead of just resolving everything. But some people really get off on it.
There's a way to make that type of thing funny. I don't know if you guys have seen The Comeback, the Lisa Kudrow show.
Oh, it's a great show. That is a great show.
Great
so
show.
Funny.
Tons, very ahead of its time in like funny wellness culture and even therapy talk stuff. Years ahead of its time. That's a way to incorporate that stuff and make it funny. The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Look, we all know Tony Soprano's a socialist. That's the main comedic element of that show.
Yeah.
But secondary, therapy scenes are funny. There's a way to, take humor out of there, but not if you think that therapy is like just this be all and end all towards becoming a good person.
Yeah.
That hey, we had our laughs out there when Ted Lasso was telling people, whoa, Princess Bride, heck of a movie. But now that he's in therapy, laughs are over.
There's a scene in this where the whole team watches The Iron Giant and cries during it.
Oh, fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of this fucking bullshit. I fucking hate this shit. My entire life, this is something I've experienced my entire life. Just, I remember going to camp and all, the most,
Masturbating in a sleeping bag?
Masturbating in the sleeping bag, being made fun of, my formative trauma made me mean. No, just the most, the kids who are a few years older than me, the spitting everywhere, most homophobic, edgy kids, they would, you'd get to know them. They'd be like, I cried during Iron Giant. Shrek's actually really important to me. Finding Nemo's actually really good because I have a younger sister. It's been the number one move for emotionally stunted dumbass Americans is they'll take a literal children's movie and be like, actually, there's really good stuff. There's really good stuff in there for adults and kids.
In the dart scene, Ted's monologue is sort of like, all the people that bullied me growing up, they just weren't curious. And my whole life I've been curious. And the people who discount me, they never asked any questions. Do you know how to play darts? Are you actually a dart expert? And I've been proving them wrong ever since then. Watching this show, I kept thinking about Mel Brooks's famous line that tragedy is when I cut myself shaving. Comedy is when I walk into an open manhole cover and die. Ted Lasso sort of remixes that for the 21st century. And the answer is tragedy isn't when you cut yourself shaving. It's actually comedy when, hey, I know there's a little blood on your face. Don't be mad. We all came into this world with a little blood on our face. I'll tell you what, take a little square of toilet paper, stick it on your face. You got toilet face. But hey, actually, it's stopping blood from going on your face. Everything's good now. It's all over. And tragedy is when the Proud Boys storm the Capitol and end our democracy with fascism.
I think you could write this show. That was pretty good.
What about Ted's relationship with his ex-wife? Because his ex-wife, and because here's the weird thing, the show I mean, I haven't watched enough of it yet to know if it really like delves into it, but like Ted Lasso has no business taking this job because, as I said, like the most shocking thing to me about the first episode is the reveal that he's an American football coach who literally doesn't know the rules of soccer or like how to play it. So the idea that he would say yes to this job is something an insane person would do. But then it's like kind of revealed that he said yes to it to like flee his failing marriage and like guilt over. I mean, I don't know, but it's like it's never fully fleshed out. Because, like, I mean, he's like left the country and like left his kid that he supposedly like does everything for and who mails him like army men and stupid arts and crafts that he made for him. And he's like, oh, here's my homemade kazoo. Can't have that. It's only one. Oh, it's for kids. And he's giving all his players little plastic army men to inspire them and shit. But like, he's doing this while his family's falling apart. And like, it's sort of implied that like was crazy enough to take this job because he was like his marriage was failing. Like, is this fleshed out in other episodes?
I think like you interpreted it as well. Like that's sort of how it appears, but I think the way it's intended is like, they somewhere in the first 3 episodes they ask him like why he's doing this basically, and he's like, my wife needed some space. So it's not that he's like fleeing from his failing marriage. It's like, he's such a good guy that he's giving his wife space. And in that time, the wife has realized that she doesn't love him anymore. And it's like, it's them trying to create like this big thing in his life, his divorce, the destruction of his family and everything, without there really being any villains. Because when she's like, I don't love you anymore, Ted reacts like, I don't know, like Roy Kent told him he's injured for that one game. Oh, well, that's okay. You know, maybe you'll love someone else. I'm going to go find someone else.
In the 3rd season, the ex-wife and her new boyfriend and the son come and visit Ted Lasso before leaving the kid so that the couple can go to Paris. And Ted Lasso gets frickin' triggered because he thinks he's going to propose to his ex-wife there. And he's like, consarn it, they're going to get married. I think Rebecca's like, hey, you know, she's your ex-wife. Move on. Stop caring. And he's like, heck, you're right.
another dilemma put to bed.
Yeah.
But that was a horrifying 20 seconds where there was some tension in the air.
It's funny that you point to the inherent absurdity of the premise. It must be stressed that this show started off as commercials.
Yeah.
The Ted Lasso character was from commercials, and it was a joke. What if an American hick football coach had to coach a soccer team when he didn't know anything about it? And then they decided to make it a show. And instead of like, what about a funny culture clash between some cracker, asshole and people with a different sport? They're like, no, that will make January 6th happen. So, by the way, January 6th happened anyway. So, swing and a miss here with Ted Lasso and trying to prevent it, which is apparently what they were seeing through time, and they saw January 6th, and they're like, we got to prevent that somehow. We'll make Ted Lasso nice instead of being an asshole.
The real Ted Lasso would have been leading people into the
absolutely.
Capitol.
And that's that would be such a funny show. To show the true evil lurking beneath like American positivity.
I mean, you know what? We haven't really talked about it, but doing a show about collegiate football coaches as a force of positivity. Yeah. Oh my God, you might as well do it about fucking, SS officers. They're the same thing.
They're psychopaths.
The real life
entirely psychotic.
Yeah, the real Ted Lasso is in the Senate. His name is Tommy Tuberville. He gets up there every day.
Yep.
And he's
okay, imagine Ted Lasso being like, some people call them white nationalists. I just call them Americans.
Yeah.
As Tommy Tuberville just said.
The Urban Meyer, the longtime college coach, he coached the Jaguars for one season, and it started not going well, and he just decided to spend his time mentally torturing every player.
Yeah. Oh my God. A TV show about Urban Meyer's one season in the NFL would be fucking hilarious. The just photos that came out of him like,
this isn't going too well. I'm going to make everyone else pay for it.
and then was like getting shit faced with like 17-year-old girls in Jacksonville. Yep. Oh, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Lasso getting like a John Morant, make him a soccer player. And does like a scared straight with him where he introduces him to one of the guys who lied about killing bin Laden.
I would like to see
the makers of this show should have looked at January 6th and realized, oh no, we have it wrong. We responded to Trump exactly the wrong way by trying to make our television this insane HR positivity, happy talk cult festival. We've driven everyone insane. We actually caused January 6th instead of prevented it.
The real Ted Lasso would he not only would have commanded Ashley Babbitt to her death, he would have been
Ashley, go on and get him.
You're the fastest one. Charge that guy with a gun. 10 seconds after her death, he would have been like, she was a federal agent.
Yeah,
she's gonna betray all of us. let's call it bomb threats to this bitch's funeral.
Oh my god. Oh fuck! I've lost. Oh, I was gonna say a TV show about John Morant playing basketball in China after he gets drummed out of the NBA, but in a country where they'll give you the death penalty for having a gun. That guy loves guns.
I think that would be the real Ted Lasso, because the Chinese coach would teach him you grew up in a place called Falling Windbrook or something. John, you don't need to slide. John, you never knew King Vaughn. You don't have to slide for him. Stop doing Instagram lives with your gun. We're gonna auction the gun to pay for the half centennial of the moderately prosperous society. And that's Chinese Ted Lasso. John Morant, excellent, great show. Everyone loves it.
I mean, I think it's weird that this show is set in the world of sports and professional sports and athletic competition, and I think the sinister nature is that they're pointing the soy laser directly at one of the last bastions of toxic masculinity, which is sports and our ability to wed our self-esteem to competitions that we have no bearing on the outcome of. And once they take that away, I mean, yeah, what do we have left? What do we have left as men in this country?
It's weird that it was sports, especially soccer, but I think it kind of had to be, because you have there is this hidden pillar of TV that no one ever talks about, but it's very important. And it's sort of lifestyle porn. It's very rarely discussed. People talk about it a little bit with Succession, about how it's it's something that's I think it's notable about Succession that it's sort of tasteful wealth.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah, and it's it's amazing art direction. I will say, this is an observation my brother and sister had that I think is brilliant. Billions is it's way closer to the truth, what it's actually like.
Because everyone wears quarter zips.
Yeah, the real billionaires in the world, the real hedge fund manager guys who are out there, they're wearing the worst jeans you've ever seen, a fucking Rolling Stones graphic tee that looks like it's from Target but costs $7,000, and a bracelet with a skull on it. That's what they're really wearing.
And hanging out with James Hetfield during his therapy sessions.
Yeah, I need to go to Metallica to get my mind off the big trade. And that it's in both cases great art direction. But I think for a certain type of TV, for most TV really, there needs to be some lifestyle porn aspect that creates a comfortable baseline for the viewer. Just it makes a nice atmosphere for people. The Sopranos have this. The Sopranos has this in an upper middle class sense, kind of. They bring it up as the show goes on. With Ted Lasso, they needed a source of wealth that no one would feel morally complicated by. So sports are perfect, because you can have this sort of, I would say, Warren Dem aligned show, kind of, right? Where people have $30 million, but it's not from managing a hedge fund or being Rupert Murdoch or the mafia. It's from talent. And it's okay because, they only make this money for a limited amount of time, and sometimes they go broke, and at least they're not Bobby Axelrod. I think it had to be sports for this show, because there's no other source of wealth that would have been unicky enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the wasted opportunities to do a comedy series set in the world of premiership football like the level of insane corruption that goes on in like European football clubs, because like half of them are owned by like Saudi oil sheik. They're owned by Saudi monarchs, or like
Russian oligarchs,
cousins and Russian gangsters and shit. But then like the players themselves, like they make Java Morant and Ray Rice look like fucking Boy Scouts. Like the European footballers are really out of control, and just like all the salacious wags gossip, all the fucking coke that they put in their faces. Like it's so offensive to me that this is a show about professional sports and there is no bad behavior. There is no one fucking up. There is no one messing up or behaving atrociously in a way that like is actually sort of thrilling vicariously.
Look at, anyone out there, look at any picture that Cristiano Ronaldo takes with his sister. Weird. It's a weird fucking world. It's strange stuff is going on there. The most normal player is like, Marcus Rashford, and they started an MI5 investigation on him because he was like, I don't think people's buildings should collapse and kill them. And they're like, we were going to kill you, you fuck. We hate you.
Actually, the one funny observation and character that's in the second season is the introduction of a Dutch player who's really rude, but everyone's he's just Dutch. He's just Dutch. And I thought that was like the one kind of funny moment that I watched.
Yeah. God, there is one thing, the last thing I saw before I couldn't play any more Dark Souls 3 and I couldn't watch any more of the show was the episode where the Nigerian player, like, he protests against Dubai Air. That's the one time where there's like any kind of wink and a nod towards the skeeziness of the sponsors and the economics of association football in Europe. That, like, some of these sponsors are morally dubious, if not all of them. But they, of course, boil it down to one. It's Dubai Air. And they have the entire team join in his protest where they all put duct tape over the Dubai Air logo on their uniforms. Does that ever do they extend that storyline?
I don't know, but I'm imagining Ted Lasso giving the team a lecture about the Abraham Accords right now. And he's like, it's like my good friend Alan Dershowitz said, if there is grass on the field, you can still play.
The real Ted Lasso would be one of those Christian guys who, like, doesn't use the word Palestinian. He hates it. He's like, they're from Samaria. They're the descendants of the Phil Diddley-Diddlestans.
We're gonna smote them with the jawbone of an ass.
Yeah. They're all from Jordan. There's no Palestinian culture. The Mufti told Hitler to do the Holocaust.
Are you using my jawbone to smote these Jordanians? Because I feel like an ass right now. And also another very unexplored mine of comic gold is like British football fan culture. Is like there's like the lads at the pub who, like, when Ted Lasso first becomes coach, everyone in Richmond calls him a wanker, and they're like, "Oi, wanker, wanker,
wanker,"
and then it becomes just like you're right, Felix. Within one episode, it just becomes a term of endearment. They're like, "You played like shit out there on the pitch, wanker. Good game though. We love you. You're one of us now."
Yeah. Oh God. I know for most people this puts them in a very calm state. That's why it's gone on so long. I tossed and turned all night after this. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I need to watch some Banshee.
Yeah, I think fans view it as a televisual thunder shirt.
Yeah. That's really it. That really is the success of this show. It's relaxing for a certain type of person. I won't begrudge you. Look, you probably think you don't love it out there, that I think the tales of Banshee are centering, but they are for me. And if you're psychotic, if you're like Travis the Chimp and you're one missed dose of Xanax away from ripping someone's eyeballs out, this is for you.
Yeah, for some people, the show just feels like getting a deep tissue massage, and for me, it feels like getting my teeth drilled one at a time by a Nazi doctor played by Laurence Olivier. It's just it. After having finally witnessed the show, it's everything I expected it to be, but so much worse. Like a billion times more psychically damaging to me. and more just condescending too, and evil than I could possibly have imagined. This is the new American empire, people. It's Ted Lasso.
Some people were upset at me. As I was posting about watching this, which in part I get a little, because it's like, there have been so many posts about Ted Lasso and how it's bad. I get it. It's well-tread territory. It is, if you think this way, I don't think this way. If you do think this way, you're like, I need 300 faves, you can just post about Ted Lasso. I don't, for me, it's a game of how few faves I can get. How disgusting can I be? So I take myself out of that. That criticism is not valid for me. But I do get the fatigue from people posting about it. But then there are people who are like, great, another take about Ted Lasso for people who who oversimplify it as a show. And it's like, what did I miss? What was the great subtle plot elements I missed? I don't half-ass any of my TV watching. I always watch at least like 80 hours of it. And I caught everything.
While doing a walkthrough of Dark Souls 3.
Oh, I've beaten that game like 50 times.
Yeah, I
know all the roles.
No, like to get your mind on the right frequency to like really vibe with what you're watching and sort of go into a tonic state, you need to be, you need to be in Dark Souls mode.
Yeah. But there were people who should know better who were like, you're oversimplifying it. And it's like, no, I think I gave it the respect that it deserved. I evaluated it like I would any other TV show. But there are even normal people who love this.
Well, I think we should leave it there for that. That was our exposure to Apple TV show Ted Lasso. Tune in next episode. We'll be diving into the silo, folks.
That's right. Get in the goddamn silo.
We're getting in the damn
Shut the
silo.
Fuck up and get in the silo.
I think I would rather watch more Ted Lasso than the silo, to be honest with you.
What? You don't want to know about what's wrong with the silo? They're not telling us everything about the silo.
The silo just looks grim.
I'm putting on the silo tonight.
Like, we're not going to find out that Ted Lasso, is like a secret con artist. That's not going to happen. But there's definitely some kind of twist that's going to happen with that silo. It's not what you think.
Every show like that is just lost. Every fucking show like that, where there's like a crazy object or location. Oh, it turns out there's a black hole there.
Do you guys see that Justified is coming back?
Yeah, it's City Primeval. Yeah.
Yes.
Going to
I
Detroit.
thought that you guys would be excited about
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, no, I don't think no Walton though, no Boyd. But hey, it's got Timothy OnlyFans though.
Timothy OnlyFans is in there.
Well, okay, no Boyd for now, but we thought Bobby Axe was out of Billions forever. He's coming back in the middle of next season.
Oh, fuck yes.
See, real TV is about patience.
I honestly think that Ted Lasso could maybe get to the bottom of this. Or I'm sorry, I feel like Marshall Raylan Givens could maybe get to the bottom of this silo business.
Justified is a good other side of the coin for Ted Lasso, because he's also a shit kicker who's bad at his job.
Yeah.
But being bad at his job isn't like exculpatory. He's just shitty at it. He's just really bad at it.
Okay. A culture clash like police procedural about U.S. Marshal Raylan Givens having to work for, I don't know, the UK's equivalent of the Marshal Service, and just to see how even worse he would be at his job without a gun. Like if he can't kill people to get himself out of situations, like when he loses someone he's supposed to transfer to a prison or something like that.
Would the first job they'd have him on, it would be like, you have to get the gender critical people to kill Marcus Rashford. That's his first job for the MI5, and he will just blow the whole thing up. He would ruin it.
And before we sign off for today, look, if you're looking to watch a funny TV show that hasn't been played out on Twitter, check out this show called The Good Doctor. He's a doctor, but with autism.
Well, just a rough time to be a TV supporter. Law and Order Organized Crime and SVU still going strong.
Is Law and Order Organized Crime any good? Should I watch it?
I enjoy it. It's silly. It's silly how like they're always like, Stabler, we need you to go undercover, because he's been on TV 500 million times during the course of SVU. like TV in universe TV.
Yeah.
He's always interviewed about every case. And you'd think that people would recognize him either from that or for being a cop for like 78 years. But no one does. He just shaves a different type of goatee, and they're like, oh, you're a criminal.
He shaves his head down 1 millimeter. Like, he's like, he just shaves 1 millimeter hair off his already bald dome. And then he's in Russian mob mode.
His baldness represents his piss level. Like, the balder he is, the angrier he is.
I'm into the Carisi years of Law and Order SVU now. That's where Catherine and I are in our watch through of the only good TV show ever created, Law and Order.
Carisi, I like what they do. The first episode you ever see him on, you're like, oh, is this like is he a shitty cop? Because they have him talk to like some horrible situation, like a 14-year-old girl who's like been forced to be a sex worker, and he's like, listen to me, you little skank. But then they just by 3 seasons later,
I
he's
remember
like,
that scene.
Yeah,
he was actually being a good cop because, as he rightly pointed out, a girl who's been pimped out since she was like 13 years old isn't used to responding to men who are like positive and nice to her. So he was like, all right, bitch, where's my money? And she was like, I'll tell you anything.
Yeah, that's true, but like that's the rationale. But like Carisi, who's now a DA, would never do that. He would never do that. Rollins is back though. She's going to be in a 3-episode crossover between SVU and organized crime.
Still gambling?
Maybe. Right.
I
don't know. She was wearing a hospital gown when we saw her.
Another kid? I don't know.
Yeah,
all right. Well, that's enough Law and Order. This is Ted Lasso show.
Ted Lasso, yeah.
Ted Lasso, good show for good people. It'll make you feel good when you watch it, and it'll make you a better person. It's just like, look, is it funny? No. But is it wholesome? Yes. And if you if you take seriously not the I won't say jokes, but if you take seriously the lessons, chances are you could get a bird to slob your knob.
Yeah.
And that's what really matters.
All right, gang. Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.